Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to use Clearly Besotted's Pretty Pansies stamp set, and I'm going to create a spotlight card. It's very easy to do. I've already stamped and watercolored with some Margello watercolor paints onto some watercolor paper, and then die cut the images with my Scan and Cut. And I'm just prepping the card base now, which I believe is an A2 size card. It might be slightly smaller, but that doesn't really matter. And then I've also got some creamy or white color cardstock as a base layer, and I'm going to use some stamps to the same two stamps to actually stamp in black onto this cardstock, and then I'm going to be careful about where I actually place the first two, and then I'm going to fill them in, fill the rest of the space in. And I'm using some VersaFine Onyx Black ink just because it's a nice rich black ink. And I'm going to start with the biggest image, which is going to go in the bottom left corner. And I'm not worried about the fact that I didn't stamp that very well. You'll see the top leaf is a little off. I'm not worried about that. These two images are going to be where my main images are going to highlight and be spotlighted. And now I'm just going to fill in the gaps with the rest of the same images, but they're going to just be in the background. So I'm just going about filling in the gaps. You can do the same technique if you want to use one stamp set and then fill a page with that image, so that you create your own background, which you can then leave as black and white, or you can color it in, or you can paint it, or whatever you want to do. So that's basically the background done. So really easy, super easy to do. The longest part honestly took me was the painting of the images themselves, which, like I say, I've already done it off camera. I actually sat and colored and painted a whole bunch of images from a whole lot of Clearly Besotted stamp sets that I have, and I then just cut them all out. So you'll see videos coming up with that. Now, to make this a little more distressed, because I have to ink everything, I'm using some antique linen just to give it that sort of, I guess, dirty look, or what, that vintagey look, maybe that's a better word than dirty look. And the reason I'm doing that is because the paper I'd stamped on to ink them, to color them in, or paint them, was more on the white side, whereas the piece that I'm using as my background has got a more creamy look to it. So I decided that actually the images as well as the paper sort of lend themselves to this more sort of vintagey, distressed kind of look. And of course I've got to ink the edge of everything. So if you start on one piece, do the whole lot, because it does make a big difference. And even on here you can see that it makes a big difference just getting some ink on the edges. I did put that off to one side because the VersaFine Onyx Black Onyx ink, the VersaFine ink can take a little longer to dry, so that's why I did set them off to one side and sort of ink some of the other things. So bear that in mind when you're using certain inks, they will take longer to dry. So you can always, if you know you've got something else to do, you just set them off to one side. And then with the sentiment, I just cut it off at an angle for something different. I don't often do that kind of thing, but I thought that it lent itself to this. And then of course I'm going to ink around the edges quickly the card base as well. Again, to me it just all ties in, it all looks like it's meant to be, kind of thing. And then of course a bit of cleanup, and we'll start putting this together. Now when you're doing this, just remember which way around you need your image to go, your base layer to go. I nearly put it upside down. It wouldn't have made a big deal, it wouldn't have been a big deal, but I just thought, actually, this is where I'm like, oh, it's upside down. And thankfully I realized that before I stuck it down too much. It honestly wouldn't have made that big a deal. They're flowers, so it'll be fine. So what we're going to do is we're going to pop these images up, and we're going to lay them over the images that we stamped on the background, and that's sort of, it also gives you a guide as to where to put them. But it's where it sort of gives you that spotlight highlight look, and I really like this. I've done this a few times in other videos, and I've done different variations on it. It's just I don't know, it kind of draws your eye in, and it's a nice look. I like it. So I've got these 10,000 of course foam dots, pop dots, whatever you want to call them, on here. And now I'm just going to line it up over the existing image on the background there and just pop it on there. I will trim off the rest, the edges. Now you could either do this like I'm doing here, where I'm lining it up, trimming the edge against the edge of the card base, or you could have done this on the layer that we'd stamped before putting it onto the card. You can do it either way, but I actually like the way this looked. I thought it looked quite cool, just like this. And then I'm just using my blender brush just to get the those edges, because we've cut them off, you lose all the edging of the, oh, what do you call it, the ink. Couldn't think there for a second. And then again, I'm popping this up, the sentiment up, just because I need to it will be level then with the rest of it, and I just thought it looked quite nice and sort of overlaps some of the leaves. And yeah, and that's pretty much it. It's very easy, very simple to do, and you can do this with any image, so I think it's a good one to try. And I hope you liked it, and I will see you in the next one, guys. Bye.